Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Integration Quest MuleSoft study group. Happy to have you all here today. We are doing part 2 with Digital D. She's back. She's doing the API secrets and secured properties. We're going to be going over part 2 of this, and happy to have everybody here today. We have another good size study group, and we're really excited to be going over this. I'm going to go over a couple things real quick, as I always do, and then I'll turn it over to her. So everybody's been doing awesome with this. We're just going to keep on rolling with the awesomeness where everybody's doing what they are supposed to, and we're happy to have that. So we were just talking about this right here. So if y'all haven't seen this yet, go check it out. This is the Integration Quest library. You can get over there and you can find a lot of really valuable resources. The part 1 of this very study group is in there, and we've got it all archived for you. So subscribe while you're there. We've got some new subscribers just since last week. Happy to see you all, and we're going to keep on helping everybody that we can. Glad to have everybody here. So we've got, like I said, Diane, Digital D, my mom. She's got a lot of titles, and she's been doing this for a long time. No joke. She's been doing this before I was in diapers. She took a pause because I was in those diapers and she needed to take care of me, and now she's back to IT. So it's kind of a long story, but that's literally what happened. And you know, it's not, like I'm always saying, it's not just about the experience. It's the fact that she's coming and willing to participate and give back to the community like she's doing. And we really appreciate that. We need that. We're all learning. She's even going to tell you that she's learning, because she is. I've got more things to add to this list right here. I'm not going to say it, so I may not be allowed to. I don't know. But we've got, like, that list has grown in just this week. So thank you so much for being here today. I'm going to stop sharing so you can go ahead and do everything that I said you are going to do and share with us.
All right, here we go. Thank you so much, RJ, for the intro. And it's true, you know, when you're passionate about something, you just want to share, you know, you want to help others. And many of the people in the room today have helped me. And so, you know, with a deep appreciation for your leadership and guidance, you know who you are, 2 in particular, and well, 3rd one actually too. RJ, you've been somewhat of a mentor for me as well. So it's kind of cool. You know, you give, you take, you teach one another. But our focus today, first of all, I want to give a shout out to some of the people who communicated with me after the study group via email or through LinkedIn as well. Thank you for that. I love hearing from you all. And also, I know you'll be watching the recording later. You're not able to be here at this certain time. So shout out for the comments, as well as I want to address some of the questions and comments you had. So that's what this is all about. You know, we want to, it's a study group. It's, you know, give and take, share, learn type of thing. I'm going to start off with part 2 of doing a recap of what we did last part 1. And as we mentioned, you can find the resources to import the jar file, etc. But how many of us have ever just hard coded a password, you know, just to test it out? You know, it's okay. We won't judge you, but we do, you know, I mean, we all do. And what happens if that got pushed to Git? Oh my gosh, you know, it could be exposed, and we've got bad characters out here. And so we are showing in this case, yeah, for sure, Vincent, we're showing in this case how in MuleSoft security isn't optional, it's architectural. You know, the vulnerabilities happen. You can read the statistics on this. It's incredible. Sadly, it does happen. So in part 1, we went through this process. We imported the example mule flow that's in the link of the first YouTube there. And then we downloaded and used the Secure Properties tool. Now, there is also a web version of this, but I find for me, the way that I was taught to do this is it's really very convenient to have it also in my Mule application. You can delete it before you deploy it to production. It doesn't take up that much space, but it also is very handy. So this is an option to use it here. Okay, so what the Secure Properties tool is, it's a jar file that you download, and then we in turn, you'll see in that first video, we brought it here into our source main resources as a tool to use here, so that whenever we needed to encrypt something, and we're going to be doing this today, that we could actually come here to source main resources, go to that particular folder, If you're on a Windows system, you can go right into that resources folder and do a CMD where the path is, and it pops up into a nice convenient way to, launch into the, command prompt to be able to run the Java commands. Okay, so we did that last time we were together, and so this basically our tool is residing in the source main resources folder so that we can run those commands. So this is the command we used last week. No, not last week, sorry. Last study group, I guess 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I'm going to turn my camera off just to keep bandwidth down. And a couple questions were centered around this. In class, oftentimes we just use Blowfish. Is that the best encryption to use? No, not really. So in today's session, I am going to bump it up to the AES, and really it will behave just the same way, but it's more of a stronger encryption there. So good to know that there are other options to use in regards to that, but customarily, usually in a class, we kind of use something relatively weaker, not a good plan. But in that command, what does that command mean? It's a bunch of jargon. So what does it mean? Okay, so we run the Secure Properties tool. We tell it to encrypt the entire file. You can be more specific and have it encrypt just certain field names, etc. But this kind of worked out really well to take our config.yaml file and encrypt the whole thing and then pull out only what we needed, right? So again, there's the encryption method. There's our encryption key. And we said, take that config.yaml file and turn it into a secure-properties.yaml file, which we did. That's what we did. And we in turn, took out any of the values that didn't necessarily need to be encrypted, because it does create this. This was our original config.yaml file. It created this. Now our port and our username may not need to be encrypted. And so what we ended up doing to, we split that out, and had in the config.yaml file the things that didn't need to be encrypted and the secure file for those encrypted values. And Blowfish keys can be any length using the Secure Properties tool. When I use AES, I have to use keys that are specific certain number of characters. I don't remember how many. Ryan, for the first level, it is 16 characters. Yes, you're right. So you have to, per the level of the AES that you use, the first one had to be 16 characters. So there you go. So in the global properties, we created the Mule Secure Configuration Property extension. And then also to configure that, there's the original one with Blowfish. And then we created a placeholder for the encryption key. When I researched it, Ryan, I did find that it seemed to be weaker. I don't know. We could do a study on that, the difference between Blowfish and AES. So, but and
there's a whole bunch of other encryption algorithms in there besides
right.
Blowfish. So it might be nice to know what their characteristics are.
Yeah, for sure. There's another topic for another study group. So here we created a placeholder for the encrypt key. So when it's created in Studio, it's just a fake value, just something that satisfies having that property placeholder available there. And we did that. And then also in our connector configurations, global elements for the Salesforce configuration, the values that are not encrypted, we are fine to do the property placeholders as normal. We do the $ curly brace and then the .NET notation for salesforce.username type of thing. But for the encrypted values, we have to put a precursor there of secure : and then the dot notation for that value. So these are, a precursor that we have to do for any of the encrypted values. Now, when we run, so at this point, remember, in our application, the value for this encrypt key, let me pause here. Yes, Ryan, go with your question.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So the prefix secure : is related to that global element. And those files, those secure properties files, can have encrypted values in them or not, right?
Yes.
So what happens if I don't encrypt all the values?
If you don't encrypt all the values, it would still recognize it as a value that it can't, like they can all be in the same file.
Yeah, and then some can be encrypted and some can't. And then some people might be worried when they run the application, it's going to print that warning message about that and say, hey, you have an unencrypted value in your secure properties file. Right?
Yeah.
So and that's all it does. It works fine. It just warns you about it. Yeah.
Well, and there was some discussion too. Do we, should in some of the off out of the study group, do they have to be split? Do we have to have an unencrypted, value file like config.yaml and then the others? We don't have to split them. Like you're saying, they can be all bundled together. However, for maintaining that and knowing where your secured and encrypted values are, it is a nice way to organize them and where all of those are. So I don't know if I would necessarily call it a best practice to split it, but I would call it, a favored organizational. What do you think?
I like them split. If you work on my team, I'm going to make you split them.
Yeah.
But yeah, the system won't force you to do it.
No, true. Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of like going to be your organizational, I guess, structure or procedures that you want to have. So we've always taught to split it, and I see why, because ultimately, ultimately the config.yaml file may go into GitHub, whereas a secured one, you do not want that in there. You don't want that in GitHub. You'd want that in a, in a secured location, perhaps a key vault.
The encrypted ones can go in GitHub.
Yeah, they can go in there, but in other words, it would, you would want to know which ones are going to hold your sensitive values, which they're encrypted, thankfully.
Yeah.
But one point I wanted to point out here is that thus far, the encryption key is nowhere in Studio, right? It's got a fake value here. It's not in Studio at all. And so that's the important thing. Now, we do add it as a runtime argument, but that does not get populated as, it will use it during runtime, but it does not retain it as a value in the application itself. So this is going to be our encryption key. So we set this up in the runtime arguments. And then the first time you deploy it, you're going to find it'll fail, because what you need to have also is the encryption key, and you as it would be going directly here, because when we run it locally, that's going to pick this one up. If you go to deploying it and you don't add the property of the encryption key, and you would want to protect it, then it's a success. Okay. So that is kind of a review of what we did last session. And one of the other questions that came about is, what is the difference between .yaml and .properties files? Okay, so this is what we're going to focus on for this session, is actually going forward with the .properties files. Now, is there any preference? Personally, for me, I've always used .yaml as kind of what we've taught. Professionally on project, I've used and seen the .properties file. So again, it's kind of, the runtime is it doesn't matter. It's going to handle it the same way regardless. So as far as the runtime is concerned, it's going to take the data and manage it as it sees fit. But the difference is left to right. YAML on the left, you've got your structure of a YAML file.
What do you think about if a team decided to have both mixed in the same project?
Then they need to be prepared to have, understand what each one will do from one to the other, I would say.
Yuck. Thanks, Vincent. I was looking for the yuck.
I know. And
Okay,
Emra,
I would say just from a developer experience point of view, the config, look at it. The YAMLs look a little nicer, right?
yeah,
But they
yeah,
have a little more quirks because you have to put quotes around your numbers.
yep,
You
yep.
always have to have a space after the colons, and they have to count spaces on the left side. And I find new developers have more syntax problems on the left side, even though it looks nicer.
Yeah.
And they have the properties files. Nobody seems to mess up.
Well, because it's the key name that equals and no space. And if you don't have a space after the username report here, if you don't have a space, you're going to get an error. So you have to have that space right there in YAML. Whereas, yeah. So, my preference is YAML. I agree with Emrit also. I think it looks more defined. It looks, and then with the, having the different key levels, Salesforce drop down to the next level password token, whereas these are all kind of, you have to define the whole thing. But just so you know, this is the difference between the .yaml file and the .properties file syntax. Okay. So then we're going to come over here. And so I'm telling you what we're going to do, and then we'll get hands on keyboard. So then we're going to also use the Java command. This time is going to be using the AES. We're going to use a longer secret key. It is 16 characters. And we're going to take the config.properties file, and we're going to have it create a secure.properties file. And likewise, what's going to happen, same thing as we saw before. So this is kind of, just a review of what we saw earlier, but it's going to use a different encryption. It's going to use the longer key and take the config.properties file and create the secure.properties. And so what we will see is the same thing we saw before. And we're going to split them out because we've got all of our keys here. I've only been using the file encrypt, and I'm using it in Studio.
Got it.
Okay. All right. So we're going to change this around. Those of you that have the original one that we worked on, we have a config.yaml here. We also have the secure properties YAML. Okay. So we're going to create, they can stay. It's okay that they stay. If you want to clean it up, you can go back and delete them. But I just left them in the one that I created, as my trial run. So at any rate, we'll go to source main resources. So those of you doing hands on keyboard, let's right click on source main resources. We're going to go to new, and we're going to come down to file. Okay, and you'll notice the file structure. You should be where you need to be under resources, and we're going to do config.properties. Okay, config.properties, and click finish. Now it's going to identify that it's a different kind of file. It knows that. It's going to pick up on that. And so now we need to go ahead and take our config.yaml information, and we can go ahead and paste it over here. And now we want to restructure this. So we're going to remove, notice that it's not even highlighted like YAML. Remove the colon. We're going to bring this up. We're going to put an equal sign in here. Remove the quote marks. Okay. So there is our http.port equals 8081. Likewise with Salesforce. Bring all this in and remove the quote marks. All right. And then we will save it. Okay. So that one's done. Now we've got to go ahead, and I'm going to add it here because I want it to create the secure.properties file. So I'm going to, let me grab here, and I'll put it also in the chat for you. Let me see if I can grab it really quick. Okay, here was the original for Salesforce. Now it's got my credential stuff in it. Let me swipe these out here real quick. So coming in the chat, we're going to put the Salesforce info back in here. Bear with me. I'm fixing it. I should have fixed this in advance. Sorry. All right. I'm getting there. So what I'm doing basically is taking the YAML of the others and adding them in here for us. Doot. All right. Coming at you. Might be the longer way of doing it, but you'll get the idea. There's always more than one way. I hate to say there's more than one way to skin a cat. The poor cats. There's more than one way to achieve things. How's that? I'm a cat fan. Jacqueline, you know I'm a cat fan.
Yes.
Don't skin cats, no doubt. All right, so coming in the chat, let's put that in here on our config.properties file. Drop down. You can remove the username one if you've already modified it like we did together. And then you want to get your Salesforce password and token and put those values right here. Because now we can close the config.yaml file. We're not going to use that going forward, nor are we going to use the secure.properties.yaml. We're going to start off with our config.yaml properties, encrypt the whole thing, and then chop it apart and split it over. So it's just one way to do it. All right, so let me grab my credentials here. So for the world to see my credentials here. And then your Salesforce token. All right, so again, you know, just remember that it's a dot notation. And then we're going to save this and we're going to run a new command in Java. So again, we will right click on source main resources, but save it first. If you don't save it, it won't encrypt correctly. Save it, make sure it's saved. Then we're going to go to show in. All right, so just like I went through before, I've already got a command prompt window down there, but I'm going to walk through this again. Right click on source main resources, show in System Explorer, and then click on resources, and then just click in the path. And on a Windows CMD, otherwise you'll have to go to a terminal window, and this is going to open up a command prompt. Okay, so now I got two of them. All right, so now what we need is we need our command, right? So our command is a little different because we are using a stronger, or, you know, perhaps stronger or different encryption here. So we're going to use this command. We're going to take our config.properties file. It's going to create the secured properties. So let me grab that, and I'll also put that in the chat for you. On its way, on its way. And make sure that there are no spaces on this. There you go. Getting rid of any odd spaces that sometimes, you know, when you're creating stuff in PowerPoint, it'll create some different things here. Oh, wait a minute, I copied the wrong one. My bad. I got the YAML stuff. Wait. There we go. Much better. Okay. Coming your way. Let me check it for any weird spaces. Much better. Yeah, that's what we needed. Okay. AES is there. And look, you know, you can use a different key if you want. I just went with something pretty easy here. There you go. All right, so there's your command. So we shall go ahead and right click on your command window. It should put the command there, hit enter. If it doesn't tell you anything, That's a good sign. It worked. It's kind of funny because it's like, what happened? Well, it didn't tell me anything at all, but that means it worked. So now we're going to come back over here to Studio, and we want to go wherever you want to go to refresh. You can go to File, not there. No, sorry. On the project name, come down to Refresh, and then you should see that it has, in fact, created the Secure Properties file. So go ahead and click on your Secure Properties file, and we're going to delete off the top two that are the port and the username, and voila, now you have your encrypted values here for your username or for your password and token. So we've got config.properties and secure properties all set for us. So if everybody is good on that, that should have worked fine. And then also what we want to do for configuring this is, let me grab it to go here. So we accomplished this. Then we've got a few other things to change here because we have changed the encryption type. So we also need to point to the secure properties file. We also need to point to the config.properties file. We change the encryption type. We need to also add the argument with the new encryption key. And the interesting thing is nothing needs to change on the secure : for accessing those secured values. It handles it either way, same as .yaml, no change there. But we do need to go in and change both the global secure property, the global config property, and the runtime argument. Okay, so let's come in here. We'll go to the global now. We can go ahead and close these guys down. We don't need them. We'll go to the global XML and global elements, and we will start with the, let's go to the secure properties config. We'll do that one first. So this is no longer YAML. We're not going to YAML. Now you can look at the three dots on the far right here, and it'll bring up the files here. If you remove, it won't show you all of them because you've got two at the top. Remove the YAML search, and there is your *.properties search. Okay, so this one is going to be the secure.properties file. Click OK. So now it's pointing to the secure.properties. We're going to change the algorithm here to AES, and CBC default is fine, and we'll click on OK. All right, so we pointed to the new secure properties file here, and we'll click OK. All is good there. We're going to go, come on. There we go. All right. And the other thing we need to change is the configuration properties because it's currently pointing to the config.yaml. And, you know, that probably would work. I don't know. I've never tried it. But we're going to change it to the other one because we're going the route of config.properties. So come down in the list of the files to config.properties and click OK. And we will do OK. All right, so we have now changed these. We are good to go, and we are ready to, we're not going to deploy it to Cloud Hub because we're going to do some other things before we deploy it to Cloud Hub. But we can run it here. So let's save this, go to your main flow, right click, and let's run it. Let's run it and see how it does. All right. Now, while this is running, and then we'll test it and make sure that it's happy. We like happy mules. We do not like angry failure instances. We want to make sure it's going to behave. But setting us up over here on Advanced REST Client because that's what I teach with all. Oh, failed. Oh, who wants to tell me why it failed? It failed. I forgot to do something. Who knows why it failed? Here, look at my console. Why did that fail? Troubleshoot it. Right. That is right. So where is that? Where do I need to fix that? Shravan said the size of the key should be 16 characters long. Correct. That is correct. where do I need to fix my key? Right, Emrit. Yes, yes, that is correct. You guys nailed it. That's right. So it needs to be fixed in my runtime. So to go to the runtime config, I forgot it. Runtime, I even had it on the slide. Runtime config, go to your arguments, and let's go ahead and fix this here and add. Now you may have that from before. It's also in the chat. Sanjong put it there. So thank you. That's awesome. And so now we've got the correct key. So I'm going to apply it. And I'm going to run it again. Yes, run it again. And it should work this time. It did the build. Ah, stop it. Bad key used. All right, now why are you doing that? Let's check it out. It's so much fun to troubleshoot stuff anyway. That should be correct. Ah, good call. Yep, capital S. We did use a capital S this time. Yep, good call. Yeah. And you know where that came from? When I was doing the slides, it came in from the slide automatically putting a capital S, and then I just used it, not even thinking about it. Yeah, so there you go. That's right. Good, good. See, this is why it's great to troubleshoot together with people because of many eyes are on, you know, what's going on. I even have it here with a secret key. I wonder what if I have it correctly here. Nope, I actually don't have it correct there. I'd have to fix that. Yeah. Now it should work. Deployed. Happy mules. All right, so let's run it and just make sure all of our encryption and our values are working as they should. And oh, I bet my I will check that. I bet my Salesforce account needs to be re-upped. Well, I'll tell you, I will troubleshoot that and get to the bottom of that. Mostly because I want to watch our time and move forward with the other things I want to include. So I'll circle back and give you an update on that. There's something I did with that account. I believe I changed my token and I didn't update it. So at any rate, did everyone else's work? Anyone give me a mine worked? Put it in the chat. Because the other thing I wanted to cover in part 2 was also, okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, I know I did something with my Salesforce, which by the way, I was doing a lot of practicing recently because I'm now certified to teach DEX 660. I went through that this week. And so that's why I have kind of messed up some of my other stuff and I didn't catch it. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of an interesting course. So, but nonetheless, I'll get to the bottom of mine. But what we want to do here is the part 2 that I really wanted to focus on, in addition to the .properties files, are that we will have environment-specific files, depending on whether you have, you know, whatever your environments are that you have on Anypoint platform. So go ahead and get logged into Anypoint platform. And within Anypoint platform, we're going to go ahead and go to access management. And under your business group, you have the ability to add different environments. Now, this has already got environments added. Okay, so you may have design and sandbox. All right, and you can change the name of the sandbox one over to dev. All right, so I'm going to click on this one and change it because I'm going to do this on purpose. I'm going to make this be all capital letters for a reason. You don't have to do it for the sake of best practices in your organization. You can have it all lowercase. I'm doing it for a specific reason. So I'm going to update that one to dev. So if you had a sandbox one, you can change that over. And then you can create a new environment. If you're using a trial account like I am, they're all going to have to be sandbox, even if it is a production one. Okay. So go ahead and the next one, type in test, lowercase, sandbox, and create. On mine, I'm just going to, so do capital letters test, sorry. Okay, I'm just going to change all mine over to caps. Okay, so create however many environments you want. For this workshop, or for this study group, I'm doing dev test prod. Was in a meeting last night and someone was telling me they've got like 14 different environments color coded. It's like, oh, okay. So anyway, we have our dev test prod environments here. Now, what that means in our runtime, when we go to our runtime here, is that we have options to switch between different environments. So our original project we deployed is in dev, and we're going to talk about promoting that to the to promoting it to test, to prod. And in those other environments, we are not going to use the same credentials in dev, test, or prod, or you shouldn't. I mean, sometimes people will split them out and have non-production credentials and production credentials, and manage those differently, which is fine. But we need to bundle our application that we have in Studio with all of those environments so that it's a one-time deploy into cloud. Well, it really, first, when we deploy our application, it actually goes as an asset in Exchange as an application type asset. And what that looks like, for those of you that already have deployed yours, if we go to Exchange, there's a way. Now, first, we're just going to see our regular, templates or REST APIs or things like that. The app type of asset is not visible in Exchange. So there is a way, if you go to types and just click on connectors. I want to see all connector types. But we're going to take the URL at the top, and where it says connector, change it to APP. Okay, so I'll give you that URL and hang on to that because it's a nice way to hack into Exchange officially, and it's okay. It's not a bad hack. And now you're going to see any of your application assets that you've deployed. Okay, so our original project that we deployed is here in Exchange. So if we were to, so like I said, our project gets deployed and it's an asset in Exchange. And now the next step that we would want to do is we want to go to, let's say it's ready to go to test. Okay, and we're ready to promote it to test. We can pull it from Exchange. And if we had a pipeline, that's what it would be doing. If we set up a CI/CD pipeline, it would be pulling, well, there's many different ways you can configure a pipeline. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that we pull it and use it from Exchange. So it's an application type, and I start typing the, first few letters of our project, and there it is. So we can then choose this one, select it, and now it's what's being used to deploy to test. But it's set up right now only for the dev configurations, for the basic configurations. So this is why what we need to do is we need to go ahead and we need to set this up with each environment values. Okay, now in our case, we're just going to use them for the same all the way through. But it's to show you that you would actually change the name of our config.properties config over into config-dev. However you want to structure the name of your files is up to you and what you set for your organization. Okay, so the config files would be config-dev, test, or prod. Secure-dev, test, prod. And then we're going to set up the mechanism that allows us to choose the specific environment that we want the application to use. Okay, so we're going to set up another global property for the env, environment value. Then our configuration properties is now going to have a property placeholder, $ curly brace env, and that is going to trigger depending on what this value is, right? If it's dev, it's going to be dev or test or prod, whatever this env value is going to be is what's going to be used. And then also too in our secure properties, same thing. We're going to change that over. Okay. And then at runtime, when we're deploying it, this is where we would tell if I'm in dev, so I would deploy it with the dev properties. If I am in test, I would deploy it with the test properties. And likewise, I would deploy it with the prod properties if I was deploying to prod. Okay. So let's set our project up to where it's going to be usable and set up for all the environments that we have. So it's pretty easy to switch this over. So stop your project from running, and we're going to just change the name of the config.properties. Okay, so we're going to right click on config.properties, come down to refactor over to rename. And we're going to add -dev, okay, and say, okay. All right, so now it's already, this one is truly for dev. We'll do the secure properties also. Refactor, rename, -dev. All right, so we've got, now I like naming mine. You'll see I like the config or the secure at the front. Some people like dev or test or prod at the front, but you'll see I like it a little more organized personally. All right, so if you're on my team, you're going to do it this way. Ryan, what's your team going to do? Ryan's speechless. Okay. All right, so we're going.
Couldn't find the unmute.
Okay. All right, watch, and I'll see how you do yours. So we're gonna.
I'll put it in the chat. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna make copies of these because in this case we're gonna go ahead and use the same credentials for each one. All right. So we're gonna click on config-dev.properties, right click, and we're gonna copy that file. Okay. Copy. And then click on source main resources, right click and paste. Now it's going to pop up and say, what do you want to name this? And just change the dev to test. Okay. All lowercase test. And likewise, right click again. You've got that copy in your clipboard, paste one more time. And we're going to do prod. Okay. So the reason I like having the config word at the front, now all of my config files are together. And likewise, secure, we'll go into this one, copy, paste, and test. And again, paste again, and prod. All right. So if you had, like I said, if you had different credentials, and you should, you might be able to have dev and prod, dev and test the same, but then prod different, then you would have to encrypt them and all that good stuff. All right. And so now these are environment specific. Okay. And we'll now go to our global. Okay. Let's go to our global. And we need to change this here as well. The first thing we need to do is we need to create another global property. Okay, so if you just go, you can start typing global. There's global property. And we need to create the global property of env. And we'll just go ahead and set this one to dev generally. Now, sometimes there's a local too. Ryan, did you put that in your chat? Okay, you do. Yeah. Dev QA, yeah.
Nope, but I always have local, and that's a global property for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So yeah, there's different ways you can do it. Whatever the standard is you want to set for your organization is fine. So at any rate, we'll go ahead and set that env value. And now we're going to come back into the configuration properties. And in here, we're going to now put the property placeholder in the name of this file so that it will trigger and replace whatever that env value is and point to the correct file. So we're going to do dash, $, curly brace, env, curly brace. Okay, so whatever the env value is going to point to dev or test or prod over here. So we'll click OK. And then we're going to come to the secure properties config, and we need to change this one as well. You cannot search for this. If you tried to do the bread trail, you know, the to search for it in the listing, you won't because of the property placeholder that's embedded in this, $, curly brace env, curly brace close, and click OK. There we go. All right. So for local, like if we had a local one and we were to run this, it's fine because it does have an env value, right? It's got an env value. So we could run this. Let's save it. Let me make sure I got everything before I start trekking off. Do. Yep. So we did the 3. We got all of our files. Okay. And we can check our files also. Come back here 1 sec. Make sure they populated over dev, prod, test. Yeah. So they're all here. Config, prod, test. So we can see that we have each of these with our values. Oh, maybe that did not save. Do you see that? That's why mine failed. Oh. I thought I had chopped that off and saved it. Remember I told y'all the other day, or I was talking before everybody got in the room, I think we were talking about the studio misbehaved a little bit. So that's why my other one failed. My secure properties YAML, that's okay. Weird. All right. So anyway, I had those values. Well, we'll see. I don't know if that resolved it or not, but that didn't need to be in there. So ultimately, and the each of these are going to our config files. Yeah. There you go. Okay. So these are all good. Let me close these all down now. And we are ready to run it. Now to deploy it though, go from there. Okay, so run it just to make sure it's going to deploy. And then we can take, now what we already deployed in Cloud Hub is our previous application. So we want to upgrade this application in Runtime Manager. Okay, so we don't want to promote what's out there right now. What's out there right now doesn't have the environments. Okay, so I'm going to stop this. Now, what we can find here is we ran through a build. Our application built. So we do have a jar file that is a deployable archive on our hands right now. So if we go to our Mule project and show in your Explorer once again and go into our project here, there's a target folder. In this target folder is our deployable archive. It's ready to roll. Okay, so we're going to go back to Studio. I'm sorry, not Studio. We're going to go back to Dev because we want to update this in Dev. Okay, and we also have a new encryption. Okay, so we're going to go to our Mule project. So we've got several changes that we have on our hands right now. First of all, we're going to go to our properties. The encrypt key is different. The original one only had 13 characters. So we're going to replace this, okay, with the new value. And the new value, make sure it doesn't have a space at the end here. Yeah, it picked up a space. Okay, so the new value for our encryption key, we want to go ahead and place this in and click apply, and it remains protected. Okay, not visible. And then we want to, now we already have set the environment to dev. So we don't really have to do this, but we can do it for fun. Okay, because it is already set to dev. That's not necessary. But we do need to replace this file, right? Because that does not have our new encryption, nor does it have our environment. So we're going to choose a file and we're going to upload this one. We do not want to use what's in Exchange. And we're going to go to the path that we've opened here for that target. So if you're like at a loss for how to find where that is, you come down into here and you can go ahead and click on this path at the top. Okay, and then we'll use that. Of course, a pipeline would do all of this for you. You could set the pipeline up to do all of that. All right, and there is your deployable archive right there. Now you could export also. All right, so go ahead and click open on that. Now it's going to bring in our new project here, and we are good to go. So we've got our new encryption key. Text view, it doesn't even show, but there we know that that should have gone in. We'll click apply changes and go. Okay, so this is going to deploy to dev and update it. Now, a couple little tricks here that I found. If you go to logs at first, it doesn't populate as quickly. Now, of course, it's going to make a liar out of me. Now, that's the last successful. There should be a desired. Yeah, the desired may not show as quickly. Maybe it will. We'll see. But otherwise, sometimes I watch for the changes to make place, and we may be good to go. It may be ready to run. Let's go to our applications. Yep, that was pretty quick. So we just made a change there on that. That was almost too fast. It makes me wonder. So let's now, so it did. That was pretty quick. I'm not seeing any logs. All right, now it's making me wonder what it's doing. Is it just that slow? Because the last successful is here. Now it's behaving like I think it should. Yeah, okay, it just hadn't kicked in yet. All right, so what I do, FYI, that's where I was headed, is sometimes the logs on the new desired deployment take a while to show here. If you go to settings and there's a little view status up here, you can mouse. I mean, I know it looks very elementary like this. It's like, really? But if you mouse over this, you can see the statuses change, which I do find is helpful. Because if it does fail or if there is an issue, it's going to show here. And sometimes you'll see that the initialization failed and, you know, various things like that. So it will deploy. And when it is completed, now it should also have added this in the process to Exchange. So that's part of what it is doing there. That is done. All right. And now if we go to Exchange and we put in our little hack up here, like we did before, let me grab that. Now we should see okay, there we go. So that's the original. Here's the new one. That's the one we want, right? Okay, so now when we go back to the runtime from Runtime Manager, and now we're going to promote it, okay? We're going to go ahead and promote it to test, okay? Deploy to test. So we need to remember the encryption key might be different. We might want to go ahead and, you know, we're going to add the encryption key. What if it was different for a different environment? The environment is going to be test. So we're also going to do that. So we'll go to test first. And again, if you're in a pipeline, all of this is going to be managed inside that pipeline in your CI/CD pipeline configurations. You know, we haven't done that in a study, have we? Have we done a pipeline yet?
I don't remember one. I don't see one.
Yeah, we need to.
Sounds like a good topic. I'll add
Yeah.
it to just topics, just ideas. It's a good
Yeah.
call.
And looking for people who would like to present on that. It doesn't always have to be us. We want to open this up to some of our team members. Those of you watching on video, you know, on YouTube later, if you would like to present at a study group, please, we'd love to, we'll help you. You know, we'd love for you to do that. So, all right, let's bump this to test. Go to dev, change your environment to test. And it's going to look like a new deployment because it is. It's in its own environment and they're isolated one from the other anyway. And a fast way to do it is come over to choose file. And this time we're going to import it from Exchange. Okay, you can start typing the name of your application and we're going to use the new one. Okay, we'll select that. So that's what it is. And then we can just easily copy the name of it here. And then I'm going to add dev or a test at the end. I really should have had dev at the end of the first one, test, and then nothing in prod for the name. You know, it's normally that you have the environment defined at the lower levels and then prod doesn't have a tag like this at the end, but FYI. All right, so we named our project. We pulled it from Exchange. We're going to go to properties here and we're going to do env and we're going to tell it test now. Now, the reason I wanted to make sure that you saw that that what we have for our values in the env global property is a lowercase test. And even though the name of our environment is uppercase, or something different, it could be production, the full word production, and we just say prod down here, because whatever we have for that env value is what needs to match our files. That's the big deal. It needs to match our files. Okay. And let's go ahead and do our encryption key. Let me make sure I get it the correct way this time. Okay, here we go. Now, another thing you could do is if you have this in a list, you can notice how it creates it as a list. I just copied it as a list. And so if you want that, I can give it to you really quick to just add it as a list, and then we will protect it. Okay, so if we just add it as a list here, and then we can switch it back over to table view. See how it's visible? We don't want that. Protect it, out of sight. And now we can deploy. Okay, so brand new deployment going into test environment. You do the same thing for deploying into production. Okay, so notice nothing's happening here again. Go to settings. Mouse over that. And you can watch it. That'll make you feel better. But you can see the different statuses. It's kind of cool. All right. So that's a wrap on what I wanted to show you for part 2. Now, my next segment that I'm going to do that's going to continue on with this is we've been talking about the application. This is all the Mule application. We have not talked about what we have to do if we have an API, a managed API for this application. Okay. So even though we've got the application running in each of these environments, we also need an API for this. So we're going to create, in my next segment, we'll figure out the date. We're going to create an API for this application. And then we will look at how it needs to promote from one environment to another, and how you can have different policies in dev that you have in test or prod. Okay, so we'll go through that process too. We'll keep using the same little app here. Why are you not running? It says it's running. Let me see. Okay, it just hadn't caught up. All right. So, and then again, we could, go the next level up and deploy it to production, but not necessary to show every step of that. You saw how to go from dev to test. But if we add unique values in each of these environments, it would be using those. Okay. So there you have it, folks. Let me see what I got to share my last screen. Hold on. This last one is cute. So as we also saw last week, that hard-coded secrets are not a strategy. They're a breach waiting to happen. And we can make sure that we have secured them, and Mule is the way to do it because he got rid of that character. Did you see that character? Watch. Let me go back. Max stomped it out.
Squashed it out. That was awesome.
So there you have it, folks. Any questions?
That was really good.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, that's a wrap.
Very good. Well, it's question and answer time. You all come through with your questions and she will answer them. My only thing was I got stumped on my Java. For some reason, my Java is not recognized globally. So I started trying to work on that, and everything else looked really good. I'll follow through just like I did last time. I'm still having issues with my system. So it's all me, not you, not you at all.
Okay.
I'm gonna work on that. I've got to get Java fixed. I don't know why it isn't recognized globally. I have to go
it's in your environment paths.
Yeah.
It's in your, we'll look at it. I'll take a look at it. And we can kind of put that as a little, here's what we did kind of a thing. If that's happening to you.
Yeah, definitely. I plan on putting that in the YouTube description because it's got me twice now. Thankfully, Studio's fixed, but my path is not working.
Yeah, it's got to, anyway, yeah, I'll go over that with you. I've got a good piece on that,
Staying Young has a good question in the chat. If you want me to read it, I'll read it so everybody knows.
Sure. Read it.
Which one is better for CI/CD, YAML or properties?
They both behave the same, I guess. It would be a matter of preference. The runtime's going to manage it the same way, so it just depends on really how you're. I know in a pipeline you're going to have certain values, key value pairs, and really both of them generate that key value pair type of thing anyway. Ryan, do you have input on that? Which one's better for a pipeline, YAML or properties? Unless Ryan stepped away or Ryan's trying to find his mute button. So to answer your question, Sen-Young, I don't think it matters. I don't think one is necessarily better than another. I know that the preference for many is YAML for, visibility on it, just readability. But, so I don't know that there would be one better than another. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, folks. Well, thank you. Any other questions?
If there's nobody else, no more questions, I'm going to go ahead and show the last thing. I had actually checked with Ryan and Slack to make sure that this wasn't going to come off the wrong way, but this is what we are advertising out for next week. So just so everybody knows, Ryan said literally this is what he's working on. So I wasn't trying to be silly, it's a little funny, but I just wanted to get the word out. And he's working on it. And it's going to happen. But this is what he said. So I just put that so that way everybody knows something's to do that is with our Anypoint license, and it's going to be super awesome. So now y'all know. I thought it was cool. Hey, we're laid back here, y'all. So that's how it's going right now. And next week it'll have a title. Okay. So as always, appreciate everybody coming out. Thank you for presenting today and being here with us. And that is awesome. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. If everybody wants to hang out and chat like we usually do, you are more than welcome to.